On this next segment, I'd wager to say that among our viewers, at some point you, yourself, or someone you know has either canceled or rescheduled a planned visit to Israel based on the security situation here. Now, no shame in that. It's unfortunate, yet a common consequence of the ongoing conflict. It's nothing new. Now, about 20 years ago, at the height of the Second Intifada, I was here as a college student in Jerusalem. Tourism went to near zero that year. I mean, zero. If you heard someone speaking English on Ben Yehuda Street in Jerusalem, that's a very busy tourist promenade. Back then, it turned your head to see who else was here. I remember handwritten signs in shop windows advertising brave tourist discount, only highlighting that desperation of the time. But once again, amidst this current flare-up, the tragedy of the latest deadly terror attack still so fresh, tour organizers around Israel are reporting cancellations and highly concerned phone calls, at least, from customers abroad. And to get some more perspective on how that industry is impacted by these moments, we're joined by Dr. Eran Ketter, tourism advisor and researcher at the Kinneret College, joining us from northern Israel. Look, when I think of tourism being affected, obviously my mind goes to those extremes of 2001 and 2 or COVID, for example. It's not that, I know, but how damaging are these types of moments to the local tourism industry here?
Okay, let's start with a positive tone. For the last 3 years, millions of people around the world have been dreaming about visiting Jerusalem, either for pilgrimage purposes or just with having the passion to see their loved ones, their family, their relatives in Israel. And these people have been waiting for the last 3 years, resulting from COVID.
Yeah.
And we see tourism picking up and recovering. We had good recovery in 2022, and there are very high expectations for 2023. That being said, we have the current threats. You were mentioning terror. We have, let's say, instability in the political level taking place in Israel, which is also a factor that might affect Israel. But at the end of the day, I think that at the current situation, based on what's happening today, and we can never know what will happen tomorrow, still 2023 seems pretty optimistic when we're talking about inbound travel to Israel. And we need to remember that the two biggest segments that come to Israel at the moment are segments that are quite resilient. We're talking about VFR, people who come to visit their friends and relatives in Israel. That's the first segment. And the second segment is people coming for religion and heritage. And
it's a strong pull.
There's only one Jerusalem in the world.
It's a strong pull. It's not just some other pretty place. Obviously, there's some real heart to what brings people here. And at the darkest times, I'd argue that religious connection still brought so many buses. I'd say, just think of evangelical communities in America, for example, who seem to never be afraid to come here. Salute them, take my hat off. But how big of a role is tourism in Israel to the Israeli economy? I mean, leading into COVID, I think there were record-setting year after year with people coming here. How big of a factor is it in the economy now?
So tourism in the Israeli economy accounts for about 3% of GDP, which is quite low in international standards, especially if we're looking around countries where tourism, like in Greece, we're talking somewhere between 60 to 20% of GDP. In countries such as Italy and France that are very dominant on tourism, we're talking about 10% of the GDP. We need to remember that while tourism in Israel in 2019 was record-breaking, we had 4.5 million tourists. At the same year in Turkey, they have tenfold more. They had 45 million tourists in 2019.
Some work to do. Okay.
The proportion in the world is not that big.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting to hear those figures laid out. I understand there's an exhibition coming in mid-February, a tourism exhibition in the country?
Yes, there's the IMTM, and everyone are very excited for the IMTM. This travel market is an opportunity for what we call buyers from international travel company to go and to meet Israelis who are sellers. They are selling ground services, hotels, attractions, services, anything one can imagine in Israel. And it's a great meeting point for everyone interested in bringing a group of tourists or selling Israel as a product to come and kind of see the highlight of the experiences and meet the senior people in the industry. And of course, the Minister of Tourism is highly involved there, and a lot of stakeholders that are very critical for tourism development in Israel will be there.
What do you say about the importance of tourism? I think it takes on another angle here in a place like Israel, where, honestly, world media, let's just put it this way, international media is not exactly selling, visiting Israel. There's a lot of sides of conflict. A lot of people think, either camels or tanks, or I don't know what comes into people's minds when they haven't been here yet. Is tourism all the more important here because it sort of reveals the reality of the country?
It's definitely, if we're talking about the toolbox of soft power and telling to the world that Israel is a normal country, that we don't ride camel and we don't have AK-47.
We might, but not to the degree that everyone thinks, yes.
So just kind of to counter this image. So that's great, and every tourist that comes to Israel is a great ambassador, and we see by the Ministry of Tourism runs surveys of satisfaction. We see that people that are coming to Israel tend to be very satisfied. They tend to be positively surprised with what they're discovering. Israel has high rate of return visitors, so it's definitely helped to improve the image of the country, for sure.
Fascinating. Always certainly an important aspect. Interesting to get some statistics from you. We'll see where things go. Hey, optimistic prospect for this year ahead. I appreciate that. Dr. Eran Ketter from the Kinneret College. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.